Hi everyone, welcome to Shelf Control. This is a video I've been wanting to do for a while, and I think recent news has made this relevant to come up now. So to not bury the lead, Gloomhaven has dropped from the number 1 spot down to the number 3 spot, and with that news, I was also going to talk about how I'm going to change my ratings on how I rate board games. So I've been thinking a lot. The game that triggered this thought process was Lost Cities, when we did the review on Lost Cities, me and Lisa, and Lost Cities. And so I'd given it a 10 because it is such a well done game that there really isn't any changes that I would make to make it better. But then that got me thinking of that would unfairly skew towards the simpler games. The mechanisms in this game are fairly simple, and because the mechanisms are not complex, they're less likely to have issues in the mechanics of the game. And so these simpler games would skew higher in my rankings, and I don't think that that's fair, because while there may be some clunky issues in a Brass or a Frosthaven, that's the nature of the game being so complicated that I don't know that I would necessarily rank this game as a personal favorite higher. And so I've been given some thought as to how to change my rankings for these games, and I'll go through that in a little bit, because this is taking me down a thought process journey. So the first thought is, what makes a number 1 game? What would make the game a top ranked game? Gloomhaven was there for years and has bumped down by Brass Birmingham. I have Lancashire here. I don't have Birmingham. I've been wanting to try it. And the number 2 game is Pandemic Legacy Season 1. But should those be considered the number 2, the number 1, the number 2, the number 3 game? Or what is the criteria? Because you've got games that have been around for years and years, like chess, which is still played today and is hundreds of years old, and maybe that should be the number 1 game. Many people play that game still today. Kids are still learning this game. Everybody has played it at some time, probably. There might be a few of you out there who have never tried it, but you've got Monopoly, the game that people, including myself, love to hate on, has sold millions of copies over the year and still come out with new versions, Star Wars version, your local college sports team version. There's so many versions of this game, and it's still selling, or they wouldn't make them. Does that make it the number 1 game? I think the argument could be made for Ticket to Ride. This game, I have an older box here, but the newer boxes brag about how many millions of this game has sold. And it's, Settlers of Catan has been a gateway for many people back in the day. I really feel like Ticket to Ride is the modern equivalent of Settlers Catan. It's such a good introduction game to get people into gaming. And the mechanisms, like with Lost Cities, are simple, and the depth is in the decisions that you make. And this is a great introduction game. Sold millions of copies. My parents have copies. They have multiple expansion maps. Should a game that successful be the number one up at the top? So the board game rankings on BoardGameGeek are based off of people's votes. You can go in and rate a game between 1 and 10. And they've got some kind of mathematics going along behind. It appears that they put in a lot of 5.5 votes in there at the start to try and balance it out so a 1 or a 10 doesn't swing it too far. And then it also doesn't rank them until a certain number of votes have come up. And with Gloomhaven being dropped down to number 3, you're seeing this massive influx of people coming in and all of a sudden ranking a game a 10 and coming in ranking Gloomhaven a 1 and trying to jockey for that position to get to number 1. And so that calls into question just how valid are those board game rankings. I was looking at some numbers, and there's the more votes that a game has, it seems like the closer that the actual user average is to the mathematical board game ranking that they give it. At the time that I was researching this, Gloomhaven, the average rating was an 8.67, and the geek rating was an 8.43. So it was only like a 0.2 difference between those. Where you have other games where the difference is much greater, and it's because they have a fewer number of votes. Gloomhaven at the time had 55,000 votes, where other games might only have 1,000 or so. And so that got me thinking about, how many votes is required for that user average and the board game average to match better. Because if you look at Frosthaven, the Kickstarter had 83,000 people kickstarting this game. It has the record for the most kickstarted money raised by a board game at, I believe, 14 million. Should that make this a number one game? But when you look at it, Gloomhaven has over 55,000 votes. So how many people who own and play Gloomhaven actually go in and vote? If there's only 83,000 backers for Frosthaven, that would mean you need almost all of them to go onto BoardGameGeek and vote for that to match up. And so it's going to take a while as Frosthaven gets out to people for it to start climbing up the ranks. But then somehow you got games like Ark Nova, which came out and jumped immediately up to number 4 with much fewer votes. And so there's nuances to the board game algorithm that we just don't quite understand. They don't want to give that information out, or people will game the system. But it may need to be revisited once more, because while they say that they will take unvalid votes out, they have an algorithm to try to determine which votes should be in, which ones are just throwaways. It does appear that people coming in and just hitting Gloomhavens with a bunch of ones is causing it to come down. And so you've got this war now where these people are coming in and making Gloomhaven a 10, and coming in and making Birmingham a 1, and people who like Pandemic are like, here's our chance, let's put this at a 10 and put these others at 1s and try to get Pandemic back up, which is not really a valid way to use the system. It's not fair to people new to the hobby coming in and trying to see what are the best rated games. Somebody might get in on a game with Ticket to Ride and be like, okay, I need to get Brass Birmingham and play that. And it does have trains in it, but it's a totally different feeling game, and it might totally fall flat for them. So it's weird because these spite votes are kind of muddying the waters. I've just, with the starting of this channel, I've started rating my games using a system, and so I'm slowly, if I don't add to my profile a score until I cover it here and give some thought to it. And so I've only got a few votes, so I might my rankings might not be considered valid by BoardGameGeek and not included, but we don't know what that is. So one thing that I was thinking was trying to come up with a way of scoring that takes into account the mechanics of the game as well as the fun factor. And so what I've been toying around with, and it may change in the future, but I'm thinking that I can start with rating a game from a 0 to 7 based off of the mechanics of the game. Are there issues with that? And then the remaining amount would be that X factor of, how much would I want to play. So if you look at Lost Cities, I would give the mechanics for this game a 7, the highest ranking for it, because there's no house rules I would make. There's no weirdness to it that doesn't quite make sense. This is designed the best that Lost Cities could be designed. So I would give it a 7. So then after that comes, how eager am I to play it again? And so it would be like, if I'd rather not play it, then it would get a 0 on that score, and so the score for Lost Cities would be a 7. It's a good, well-designed game, but I'd rather not play it. And so if it's a game that if someone's like, hey, you want to play, I'm like, sure, let's play it. That would be a 1. If it's something that I would say, hey, let's play this, give it a 2. And if it's a case of, why are we not playing this game right now, then that would be the 3. And so what that would change, where I had given this a 10 before, this would now get a 9, because it would get the 7 for the design, and it's a game that I would actually say, hey, we got some time, there's 2 of us, let's play Lost Cities. And so my rating for this game would actually go down by 1, because it's not a game that when I'm playing another game, I'm like, why am I not playing this? But it is one that, if the situations are right, I would suggest this game over others. Looking at other past games that we've reviewed on this channel, Terraforming Mars that would still be a 10. I don't have any issues with the rules, the mechanics of the game. There's nothing that seems weird there, and it's a game that I'm always wanting to play. So it gets the 7 for mechanics, 3 for gameplay, and that would be the 10. Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition, I had given that a 6 before, and I don't think that would change either. I would give it a 6 for mechanics because there's just things that just don't feel right with it. The idea that cards in hand are money just feels awkward to me. It's, you can get your income by getting money, or you can get your income by drawing a bunch of cards, and where the real Terraforming Mars, excuse me, you had to make a really tough decision of, am I going to keep this card because it's going to cost me to hang on to this card? And then if I do pay the money to keep this card, then there's the pressure of, I actually need to get this card out, otherwise I've just wasted the resources to hold this card. Where in Ares Expedition, you don't care about your cards. You're drawing cards and it doesn't matter, it's money, so it's okay. So that would be a 6, because the mechanics, I think, have a little bit of an issue, and it's a game that I would rather not play. If somebody offered, hey, you want to play Ares Expedition, I would probably try to talk them into something else. I'd rather not play it. So it stays 6 for mechanics, 0 for wanting to play, so it's a 6. We also looked at Wingspan. The base game Wingspan, I think I gave it a 6 or a 7. And with this new system, it would be a 7, because I would give it a 6 for the mechanics and 1 for playing. There's a couple things with the base set that I would change and make a little bit better, and some of the expansions do that. Plus, I have a house rule to take care of that. So the base would just be a 7. With the expansions, I would move it up to an 8. The expansion with the nectar does help you get to doing the fun stuff of playing cards faster, which I like, but not every expansion has that nectar. So I've still averaged it out, Wingspan with expansions, to a 6, depending on which expansion you get. But it does increase the playability, where I would be like, hey, why don't we play Wingspan? And so that would bump that. It was an 8 with expansions. It's still an 8. And with my obsession end game scoring house rule, where you have a certain number of the end game scoring, and as the game goes on, you actually discard them down. That fixes a lot of the issues. That with the Nectar board fixes a lot of the problems that I have with Wingspan. And so that would actually get the mechanics up to the 7. And then with the willing to play it, it would be a 9. And I don't think I actually rated it with my house rule in there, because I don't think that's really a fair way to put it on BoardGameGeek, because that house rule isn't up there. But I would encourage you to try it, and if you're not familiar with it, watch our Wingspan video for how that works. And then Lost Ruins of Arnak, I think that's evident with how much we gushed over the game in that video. Mechanics is a 7. The why aren't we playing it gives it a 3 for a 10. If you add on the solo and the detail and the creativity that they used in the different solo modes, and Lost Ruins of Arnak is certainly a 10. So how how should you use these rankings, either BoardGameGeek or our own with our channel. So with BoardGameGeek, I will use the rankings if I need to make a decision and I'm pressed for time. We have a couple of good used bookstores in our area that have used board games, and there'll be a cover that catches my eye or a designer that I'm familiar with, and if I need to make the decision, do I want to get this game or not, I'll usually bring up BoardGameGeek and see if it's gotten like a 7.5 or higher, and that's a pretty good judge of what people think of the game. And if the price is right, then I might pick it up to give it a try myself. If it's got like a 6 rating or below, then I'm more apt to put it on the shelf and turn around and walk out. Is it a bad game? It seems like some people seem to think so, but I'm sure there are a lot of lower rated games that I would rate higher just because of my personal preferences. And so I would take board game ratings with a grain of salt, but they can be helpful in making those decisions. If I have more time at the store, I might go to the forums and click on reviews and read through a few of those and see what people say about it to make the decision with a little bit more knowledge. But if I'm running in and grabbing something and running out, I might use the board game rating to help me make that decision. So what about my ratings? If you're watching this channel and we're giving you our number ratings, I would say treat them the same way that I kind of treat the BoardGameGeek ratings, except you will have a better idea as you're watching our channel what our personal tastes are, and you can use that as a guide to whether a game is for you or not. If we seem to mesh and like a lot of the same games, and then I start talking about a game that you haven't tried and I really like it, then you may be like, okay, he likes the same kind of mechanisms, the same things I do, and he likes this game, I might give it a try. Or you may watch us and disagree with everything that we say, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, Norm really likes Lost Ruins of Arnak and Terraforming Mars, and he really likes Lost Cities. I'm not going to pick that up because I don't really like what Norm likes. And so the usefulness of our ratings comes from the familiarity as you get to know what we like. And so it's all just more information out there that you can use to help make your decisions better. And so that was one of the things I was thinking about when we were thinking about doing this channel. We were going to play through all the board games that we have and decide which ones we wanted to keep, which ones we might get rid of. And we thought it might be a fun thing to share with you guys on YouTube. And while there are lots of review channels out there, I watch a number of different reviewers, and I watch them because as I get to know them and their tastes, that helps me make decisions on games that I'm looking at. And so we figured one more review in the mix is just another data point that people can use, and we're having fun with this, and hopefully you are too. So a takeaway from this: take ratings with a grain of salt. Please refrain from review bombing or just throwing 10s out to try and get your game up to the top of BoardGameGeek. It's not really helpful for anyone except maybe the publishers of that game, as interest goes out and people get curious and just buy the #1 game. But it really doesn't help the end user of the game, because they might get something that they really don't enjoy. So anyways, that was me giving some thoughts on board game rankings and how they should be used, and how I'm changing my ranking going forward. So future videos will use my 0 to 7 plus the 0 to 3. And let me know what you think of that system. Are there some flaws in there? It's all just my opinion, but I think as we put out more videos and as you guys share your thoughts with us, we'll get a better understanding of what each other's opinions on gaming are, and can actually use that to improve our gaming experience as a whole. So thank you for joining us on this journey. If you want more, please subscribe. If you like the video, hit like. Comment down below. I'd love to know what your opinion is on BoardGameGeek rankings and your opinion on my ranking system. If it can be tweaked, I am willing to change that up a little bit as well. But for now, this feels good to me. So we'll see how it plays out in the future. We'll get some more reviews out as the time goes by. So anyways, I'm rambling here at the end. I'm just going to end it. So thanks again, and we'll see you next time. Bye.